Hello everyone, my name is Rizival, and this is going to be kind of a little bit of a different video than what I normally do. It kind of will be me just talking about stuff, but I recently just played Deltarune Chapter 5, and oh my god. So, genuinely so peak. Absolutely. So, that looked not good. But, genuinely one of my favorite chapters that I've played. I had a lot of fun playing it. Me and a couple friends got on a call, and we all voice acted the characters. And I'll talk about that as well. And I also want to talk about a couple of the theories that I had. There are a lot. But first, let's talk about just chapter 5. As you know, I believe I should put a spoiler warning. I'm going to put in there at the beginning of the video, so if you didn't see that somehow, spoilers for Deltarune Chapter 5, going like right now. So don't watch any further. Alright, now here we go. Deltarune Chapter 5, starts out with the festival, and you go, well, you don't start with the festival, but you go over to the castle town, and you help Susie kind of get ready. You can kind of interact with everyone there. If you have all your recruits, you can do the fight against Super Saiyan Newbert and his gang, the trashy trio. It genuinely looked like a peak fight. I did. The problem is on my save, I plan to go in 100% the game afterwards, but like on my main save, I missed a couple of characters in chapter 4 and chapter 2, I think. Yeah. You get to hang out with everyone, you get to check in on everyone. I have Tenna in my castle town. I didn't give him the Metaton yet, but I did give him the Metaton later in the day because Tenna was like, I really miss being in someone's home. So it was like, you know what, I'll take you over to that. You know, I will miss seeing you. Then Queen says a couple of lines that are kind of crazy. So there's a lot of like silliness, and you can definitely tell that Castle Town, like everyone there, has kind of changed a little bit. I did notice that. Like Rules isn't like trying to like come along with like every adventure. Lancer's having fun with everybody, and they're not like as much as wanting to go along with you, which kind of was a little upsetting because I kind of wanted to see more of like Lancer doing woody things, and maybe another Rules fight. But maybe that's later down the line. Maybe they've just gone past it. But it was cute to see all of them interact and have all the stuff. Like Tenna telling Susie to dump Noelle because he has a flat screen TV. But yeah, you get through that, you get to design an outfit for Susie, which just ends up becoming, a bunch of papers on her head. You leave. You meet up with Noelle, and you guys go and you do the festival, do all the fun stuff. It's kind of where my first thing kind of starts, is one of the stalls that catches my attention is the little, I call him a parrot because he kind of looks like a bird, but I know that his original one, he's like the giant mouth that's like popping out of the ground from Undertale, and he's one of the Goners. He's got a little stand, and he's selling, little, I think he tastes like onion, which, does not spell out great news for our good friend in the lake. The lake. Ooh, the lake. We'll get there. But yeah, it is. Yeah, I think they're probably dead, which is kind of crazy. He also mentions the Undertale currency, but then recorrects himself, and the guy below the stand also mentions it as well. Who is also another redone Goner sprite, like the color and stuff, which I thought was a little interesting, and that'll tie into like a couple of other theories, because Undertale is definitely is referenced a whole lot of times during this chapter. So once we go past that, there's like a couple of other things, which I don't want to talk about too much because I want people to kind of explore them. I'm only going to be talking about them if they really like impact my lore and theories and stuff. They're all theories, they're not like kind of stuff. Um, and so you gotta go through the whole festival. You get to interact with Birdley, but unfortunately doesn't get to come with us, which kind of sucks. Honestly, I was really hoping that he was going to, and I thought it'd be really fun, like really funny, but nope, not at all. But I guess it kind of makes sense for like Snowgrave and stuff. Is he up again? During Snowgrave? I don't think so. You don't ever see him during Snowgrave. I will also get to that. But once you get to the lake, Chris is just kind of asleep, not asleep, just kind of watching Noelle and Susie, and they have a cute little interaction, which I don't want to spoil because I genuinely love it so much. It is on my stream if you want to watch my reaction to it. I did stream like the first part of it, but then I had to stop because someone kept posting spoilers in chat. So if you do that, watch out for the chat. Kind of sucks that I had to not stream it because I genuinely had a lot of fun during this chapter. But once you get to once you get past the lake scene, there's a lot of moments with Noelle, but she has to go off because apparently Rudy has fallen down, which I've seen a couple people speculate that it means that Rudy died because that's the term that they used in Undertale, which I feel like that could be like something, but I feel like that might be too much of a read into it because I don't know, it's just a little much. I don't know. I feel like you wouldn't kill him right now, but I mean if he did die and then the thing, it'll just be a lot of drama next chapter. I'll just say that. But Susie decided, then we try to go over to help Noelle, but then Susie gets distracted. Chris opens a dark fountain within Asgore's flower shop, which, there have been multiple theories about the flower shop and all of that stuff. Like the flowers that have the same color as the 6 human souls, and then the same one that looks like Flowey from Undertale. And they didn't really disappoint with any of those. I really liked all of their the designs and stuff. But we'll get to that. So we enter the dark world, all this stuff. Susie's kind of, I think, starting to catch on to that Chris is working with the knight and opening some of the dark fountains and stuff. But she kind of brushes it off. But I think she will learn, and it's going to be definitely a devastating scene when she does. You get to the dark world, meet Flowery, which I was like, that's one letter off from Flowey to Flower. And, it just gets like a lot more, there's just like a lot of stuff like that. I won't talk about too much. I will say there's a thing that you get that unlocks like 2D platforming. Genuinely, some of my favorite stuff is during those 2D platforming sections, because I absolutely love doing all that. Even if there were a couple frustrating bits for me, but like, it's 2D platforming, what are you gonna do about it? And then you also get to meet the other flowers. First ones you meet are Aqua and Seth, which are Patience and I don't know all of them. The purple one. But they're very they're very cool. Aqua's kind of like a small child that's obsessed with throwing knives at people, which peak. Do not throw knives at people. Don't do that. And then Seth, who is one of my favorites, I think. They're very they're very kind of studious, where they do a bunch of studying and stuff, but then every time that it goes wrong, they just kind of give up. Which is funny. Oh, that's right. They're Perseverance, right? I think that's right. And they're really fun. I like their dynamic a lot because they would always be hanging out with each other. And who do you meet next? Oh, I think you meet Green next, and you meet Flowery. Is this whole anime intro sequence, which is jarring. I thought another game. One of my friends thought the one of their computer opened another game on top of it. And it was just like, it's just like the TV timeline, but like an anime. My favorite thing about it is that Rousey just freaking hates him so much, and I'm like, it's so peak. And like the first day after like I'd gone to that part, I saw a bunch of videos of people using the Gravity Falls one where he's like, I'm Dippy Fresh. You stay out of this, Dippy Fresh. Take a chill pill, man. There's frozen trees here. Like that kind of stuff. I really like that, and you know, Flowery, I mean, he's kind of annoying at the beginning, but he gets definitely better and more a character that I like more later on. Green is genuinely just the best flower. They're goated in every single way. I love them so much. But one of my like personal like best favorites is Yellow. I love Yellow, bro. He is really, really funny. I'm not gonna spoil too much of it. Why I find him so like humorous. There's a lot of scenes and stuff that like really help give him life and all that. And then his husband Blue. I love them. Both of them. They're like their dynamic is also really cute. I really like it a lot. Then of course the last flower we have is Orange, who, despite them all looking like humans, Orange looks like a rat, which is funny. But it's it takes courage to break the mold of what human beings possibly. So I guess props to them. Really fun chapter. And you also got to see more of Asgore, and he also wears his iconic gold armor from Undertale, which is very, very interesting. There's a lot of references to Undertale in this chapter, like a lot. Like there's actually, I forgot to mention, which is part of my theories, is you have to interact with Sans to move on to like the lake part, where he makes you draw he makes Susie draw her friends on a piece of paper, and it turns out to be the paper in Undertale. It's a poorly drawn picture of 3 people smiling, and there's that. And I don't know why, but a lot of people online seem to think that in the normal route she also draws well on there. I'm pretty sure she doesn't when I played through, but I'll have to double check it. But it's not too important to my theories and stuff, but it definitely proves the fact that Sans is originally from the Deltarune universe and all that. He also gives you a piece of bread for ice cream sandwiches, which will come important later. Yeah, so you go through the chapter. The night is like barely showing on until like the end. And Flowery and the Knight fight, and Flowery gets cut in half, which you can actually see is referenced in one of the mini games in Chapter 3, where you take a picture of a flower that's been cut in half, which is crazy foreshadowing. And I really need to go through those mini games again, because there's genuinely so much stuff that is now like put in more perspective context. And then, it ends with everyone going home for the day. Susie's kind of like a little upset because we didn't get to save Asgore. And she says that she wants to include Noelle because they need more help to save people. And then it turns out that Susie's been staying in Castletown at night instead of her house, which kind of concerns me about her like whole housing situation and stuff. It also, a lot of stuff points to like things happening where it's like, please, don't take it easy on Susie. Where I feel like we're gonna have to close the Castletown Dark Fountain at some point, which is going to really suck. And I don't want that, because Susie's like my favorite character of all time. I don't want to see Susie sad ever. It's not something I want. No. which is why I refuse the weird route, because now we're going to get into that, which is where most of my theories are going to be kind of circling around. Is the weird route is so instead of waking up before the festival starts, you wake up way after, and Susie's kind of waiting outside your house, but Toriel does give you like honey toast and stuff. You go out and you kind of just see all the like attractions and stuff without all the people there. It's only Susie, and then you have to talk to Sand. You get the piece of bread and draw the thing again, which is and you can't move on until you do that. So it is important, and I do stress that. So then Susie goes to get more ice cream, which leaves you alone with Noelle, which kind of caused her to go a little cuckoo crazy, but not really. She practically, is like, "You've changed, Chris. You've changed." Saying that, like, if Chris can change who they are, then she can, and now she can have the power to change, she can have the power to lead. And what she does is she tells Chris, something that she actually told Susie in Chapter 2, when you have Susie ask something crazy. She says something crazy would be that she's going to grow wings and fly away. But she asks Chris to tell her to do that here by proceeding, and she starts to drag you into the lake, and you're forced to proceed further and further down. And it looks like they're just kind of drowning, but she kind of then like screams Chris's name in I think her head, because you can still hear the soul. And it's very, very the scene freaked me out when I watched it for the first time, like a lot. It's genuinely really unsettling. And then when it hits the end, it goes, "Insert Chapter 7, Side B." It plays a noise, which is where I'm going to get into my first thing. Let me find out. I have a bunch of like evidence and stuff that I've like gathered through videos and stuff. But someone sped up the audio that plays during that scene by 666%, and the thing it gives you is kind of really it's kind of a little unsettling. It first starts with the sound of flapping wings, which of course told you well you have to learn to grow wings, and then you do hear Noelle kind of speak, but her speech is a little distorted and a little slower than it should be. Like, it's a little slower, and then it's like these weird distortions in it. So something's definitely happened to Noelle. Whatever happens. And they're definitely not dead. They're somewhere else. Though I do say that the whole thing of her saying that is definitely an allegory for suicide, which is also pretty scary. And I think it's why it was very unsettling to watch. And later, and also earlier, Susie tells you that Noelle tried to give her all of her money because she's not going to need it. And so when they disappear, Susie's going to think that her best friend and her girlfriend have both died or just disappeared. There's a lot of people that are saying, like, what's going to happen, and I genuinely am not going to be able to take it. And, Chapter 7, we can wait, like, 10,000 years until I have it. I don't want to see it. But I also want to see the ending, okay? Like, the whole ending. So, like, just give me that one, just make Side B never happen. But that's where we're going to kind of get into a lot of the theories here, which, I've seen people online talk about the breadcrumbing theory, which is why the bread is so important. And also, when you inspect it, it says that it leaves crumbs everywhere. There was a glitch you could do with something in Mother 1, which is what a lot of Toby's inspiration can come from, where you would be, where you can break out of bounds of the game, which, before I'd even heard about this, I was like, I already knew that they were leaving the bounds of the game. Like, that was obvious. They're going through, and they're doing a glitch, because there's a lot of evidence to support it, like, on all that. And it makes me think that the prophecy has definitely happened before. There's been, definitely things that have, like, happened before. And I think the weird route was what happened before, and that's why the roaring had already happened, and the roaring is actually what's kind of underground right now. Not like a full roaring, but like a contained version of it. And I hope that we can fully clear it by the end. But who knows? It might just be like a loop that goes on forever. But once you get through like all that stuff, and you do like the glitch, it takes you to this weird out of bounds area where it's just kind of constantly grabbing random pieces of like code for like where to go, and it makes this monochrome like weird kind of liminal space, which as we know from the Eggman, copies are monochrome. I will also get into that as well. I've got so many theories to go over. I'm gonna have to like loop my stuff. I'm gonna have like 22 minutes of B-roll. The first thing is that they're definitely leaving the bounds of the normal game somehow. Whether they're breaking into the they're clipping under the lake. I personally think that the lake is somehow a dark world because it counts as a different spot. Because there's one other thing that I like to look at every time that new chapter comes out is people go into the code, and in there is a kind of one-sided conversation where someone it seems like they're stuck somewhere, and I have a feeling that that's Des in there. I think a lot of people agree about that, and that she's stuck there in the complete darkness, and she can't even doesn't feel like she even has like a body anymore. She's just a collection of memories, is what she says in the newest one. And she keeps saying, "Don't forget." And it would make sense that if she was in the lake, that when everyone mentions that there's a song or a sound coming from the lake, the song would be, "Don't forget, I'm with you in the dark." You get that line. So it makes me think that that is a song that Des is singing to keep herself from destabilizing within the dark. So she is still technically alive. So that brings up a couple other things. Like, the knight could be Des, but it could be just her body. Because in the prophecy and stuff, it notes that the cage made of human parts, and the soul, like the soul surrounded by a cage of human parts and stuff. And a lot of people have been pointing out that the knight's chest cavity, when it roars, looks like a bear trap or a cage of some kind. And so there's been a lot of theories. Like I've seen stuff like that, like the vessel, combination of Chris and Noel from the Weird Route, which I don't know how much evidence supports that. I had been a big fan of the Rudy theory, where it's Rudy, but I don't know. This chapter kind of throws me off a little bit with that. I still think it's possible as long as he's not, dead. But I do think another contender would be either the vessel that you made at the beginning, because they're missing a soul, and they've been reconstructed or something into the Roaring Knight, or Des's mindless body is being controlled by some other dark force. Because also in this chapter we see that a Lightner who's a ghost Lightner that possesses a body. The body can become a Darkner. So, and we've seen with Gerson that someone who is dead and turned to dust can reconstitute as a Darkner as well. So that makes me think that Des's body has become a sort of kind of like what the flowers are, where it's like a kind of combo thing, but then kind of falls apart when you realize that whoever this is that is the knight has to be able to carry both Undyne, who has been seen benching cars, and Asgore, who is this really big guy, all the way back to the shelter. And that's where a lot of my theories fall apart, because there's no way, I feel like there's no way Rudy could do that. And I do think Carol is also a really good one, because Asgore actually mentions that he wants to go to Carol to get her help with stuff now that he's gotten all this proof about it, and like the Dark Worlds and stuff. And it proves that the Dark Worlds have been here before because Asgore has been researching them for a long time, trying to figure out what happened during that incident, which we don't know about, which I assume is Dess's disappearance. It's just a lot of stuff, and when you realize it, water is one of the biggest things, and that's why the lake is so important. At the beginning of the game, when you make your vessel, you're underwater. The dark fountains have been described as a fountain of liquid darkness that pushes up like a river. It's crazy just how much water seems to be in this whole thing. And there's, I don't know, it just seems very, now that you're like putting it together, you're like, oh my god, it makes so much sense. And that's why I think Chapter 6 will take place in the bunker, and Chapter 7 will take place in the lake. I feel like Chapter 6 is kind of where we're gonna hit, or kind of our like main climax. And then Chapter 7 is going to be about like finding Des, I guess. I don't know, maybe. And maybe freeing her from like the eternal darkness of that place. Because the one thing that throws that off, that Des being in the lake, because a lot of people said that she probably is there in the lake, and that she drowned or drowned herself. But I feel like it's not fair to say that, because I don't know, it's just, I feel like she's not dead because of the files and stuff, but I don't know if she tried to go out by herself, or if it was something to do with like the prophecy and stuff. I definitely think the prophecy has repeated itself, for sure, because it kind of tells us that it does, because we know that the prophecy is like its own thing that's been around for like a long time, and then you have the dungeon game that they play, which is also based off the prophecy, and all that, and it's just like, and everyone's like, oh, we're gonna break the prophecy in one thing. The normal route actually has, I think, broken the prophecy. I did see people talking about it. And it's the line, Flower Man trapped in asylum. Which, it works for both Asgore and Flowery. Flowery being a flower man. When at the end, you see escapes the confines of his glass container. And, you know, if you recruit everyone, you can put him back up and, like, save him. And then Asgore kind of at the end accepts the fact, that he's been going about his life wrong right now, and he's been too obsessed, and he needs to dial it back. And, you know, he figures, he kind of stops trapping himself in his own mind and realizes that he can ask for help. And so it's two different asylums are both escaped at once. And Flowery kind of breaks that thing, and, you know, I think that's, you know, pretty, like, kind of makes sense. But we also don't know the whole prophecy. That could just been one part, like, oh yeah, he was trapped in an asylum, but he does escape, and that's part of the whole thing. But, you know, we don't know really all of the prophecy. So it's kind of hard to really say that it's been broken. But if you think about it, it really means that the weird route, the prophecy is certainly still on track, if that is the correct thing, because you never open the Dark World to let Flowery kind of escape the confines of his thing. Asgore doesn't learn his lesson from being in the Dark World and meeting all the flowers and all that. And it's just kind of, you know, that. But yeah. I guess I have some other ones. It's just like, it's just definitely is that Chapter 7 is either going to take place outside, or Side B might take place outside the confines of the movie, or will lead to the spot that it's supposed to. Because skipping a whole 2 chapters is crazy. You don't get to do Chapter 5 really all that much. You get like 20 minutes of gameplay. And Chapter 6 is just completely skipped. Which is kind of crazy to me that people who are doing the weird route have to wait a whole probably like 2-ish, maybe 3-ish years just to end the route. But it does, if you have completed up to this point, it does change your save files for the rest of the thing. And what I think is important to mention is throughout the thing, Flowery teaches Susie about like the different like game mechanics that Rousey somehow knows about and tells us, the player, about. But Flowery is also telling Susie about these things. And so I think it's gonna come to the conclusion that they're in a game at some point. And that's like the big reveal of like the end of Chapter 6, and then we go to Chapter 7, is that they're within a game, and now they're trying to either break free and make it their own, or escape the thing. And that's, I think, what happened to Des, is she tried to escape, she realized that it was all just a game, and escaped. So I bet you there is a game out there that is just before Deltarune. I bet you Kobe actually made it, because there's a lot of things that are going on like online and stuff. Because once you get the shelter code, you realize that it's like kind of the date that Undertale was released, and plus a couple of extra things. And it's and you know that Des is also related to this stuff. And there's just so many references to Undertale. So people are saying that Chapter 6 will be just Undertale, which would be kind of, I feel like it would be interesting, but also would be kind of weird. I don't know. Because I mean, they are parallel realms, so I don't think we're going to go there. But who knows? I guess. But definitely, the Undertale references kind of, I think, are meant to point you in the direction of the thing where Alphys in Undertale says that to break the barrier to escape to like, the over, like from the underground, that you need both a human and a monster soul. And as you can see, we have a human and a monster soul that breaks through a barrier of a game that kind of skips to the end. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff pointing the connection to Undertale. But I think it's not trying to say that like Undertale is the thing. They're trying to point you to what is in Undertale. I think it's trying to like tell you things. The things in Undertale can be seen as like, you're supposed to look at the parallels and see and kind of, you know, figure it out from there. Which, you know, there's definitely a lot of evidence to support that the worlds are kind of similar, but most definitely different. And you know what I don't understand is how the sound that plays at the end of the weird round, the thing, if you turn it into, there's like, I don't remember what it's called. It's the process of where you like lay it out and it makes an image out of the music. It turns into a lake, and then if you do it in a different way, you can make out the blurry appearance of Noelle and what looks like the tail of hell, or like a tree of some kind. It's like either one of the two in the background, which, well, maybe not specifically Noelle, it could also be Des, wherever she is, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that it could be, and we won't know until the chapters come out, but it is fun to theorize. Which is why I kind of made this video, because I had like a lot I wanted to talk about. But most of it's just kind of rambling. One thing I'll say is definitely one of my favorite chapters, and for some reason, people saying that it's like not have any lore in it at all. What? Did we not play the same game? And people are like, oh yeah, it was like, you know, I did the weird route. That definitely has like a whole lot of lore implications to it. So even if you play just the weird route, like, oh yeah, that was terrible. Well, maybe don't play the freaking weird route, you know? And And then, let's see. I saw another one. People were trying to figure out what Rousey is, because now that our eyes have been open to like the flowers, there can be like kind of like a weird hybrid. They've been trying to figure out what Rousey can be. And I do like to mention that Rousey looks like Azzy at Azrael at like a distance, but like when you look at him more, you can see that they're definitely like very different. And so that makes me kind of think that Rousey is like a keepsake that was it's like because we definitely know now that Azrael and Des were a thing at some point, because the thing. I think that either Rousey is like a kind of like either a keepsake made of like maybe Azrael's fur, so it kind of counts as living, or something along those lines, where it's related to like maybe it was something that Des had, or Azrael had, and he's like and he's like kind of like one of their keepsakes for one of each other, and Azrael like hid it after Des's disappearance or something in the closet. I don't know. There's just that's my personal thing, is I think it was something related to both Azrael and Des, and that he's kind of like not related, but like kind of he's something that they both cared for. So maybe, and then a lot of people are saying that, oh yeah, Rousey must be something that Chris has. But when you realize that Rousey's able to show up even when Chris isn't there, like in the supply closet, they're there, that he's there. I don't know, it's just a lot of stuff, and I don't really have much on the Rousey theory. But who knows? Yeah, that's kind of it. Sorry this video went on so long. Sorry that I just kind of rambled at you. But I hope you guys do enjoy the B-roll footage. I spent 22 minutes getting it. I was surprised. I thought it was gonna take longer, but it didn't. So yeah, that's it. My theories. If you have your own theories, do share them in the comments so I can read over them and look at other things, and you might open my eyes to more theories that I would like to think over. I would appreciate it. But yeah, stay safe, don't die, Rizival, out.